Straight games, no filler. What's up, everybody? This is Mars Vindicator, and welcome to Status Quo, episode 25, your home for gaming trends past and present. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host,
Queasy Crayfish.
That is right. And so today, as usual, we have a number of the world's best and greatest topics that we're going to talk about, and that you're all just going to enjoy and, give us so much feedback on, because that's how Status Quo works, So first, as always, we're going to have flake news. We're going to give you guys some of the hottest and just, most exciting news from the gaming industry from this past week or so. And then we have 4 topics that we're going to get into. So the first topic is a little thing I like to call late to the party, which basically is going to be games that we feel like should have been re-released, should have gotten a sequel, or should have gotten remade or something, but it just hasn't happened yet. The next thing we're going to talk about is gaming environments. There's a lot of, cool new open world games coming out. You got Assassin's Creed, you got Red Dead Redemption, then leaving later you got Cyberpunk, and all these, different worlds. So we just want to talk about our best worlds, our most favorite worlds to, spend time in video games. After that, we're going to be talking about gaming as an adult. So as you know, both Queasy Crayfish and I, we are, very mature, grown gentlemen here. And, we're not 6 anymore, so we don't have 80 hours a day to spend playing video games, right? Like we used to. The whole time thing is different. So we're going to talk about that. And then finally, we're going to talk about Roundup because there's just been a lot of games this fall. I think it's been one of my most favorite falls for gaming, at least this generation. So we just want to talk about what we're playing. So, enough of all this intro, mumbo jumbo. We'll get started here with Flake News. Queasy, you ready for Flake News?
Yes, I am ready for Flake News.
And cue the music. DJ. Thank you, DJ. Alright, so first Flake News is this was a desperation topic here. You can create not safe for work things in Soul Calibur 5 Character Creator. Did you hear about that, Queasy Crayfish?
I did hear about that. I know Polygon was in an uproar about that. Got highly triggered by seeing certain phallic imagery. So, they just leave it up to the internet. Give them a couple days. Give them, or not even. Give them a couple hours and some rudimentary tools, and they will make penises.
I mean, yeah. Why not? It's in there and you can do it. Yeah, I've been playing the game. I may or may not have made some of those things. But most importantly, the way they've done the character creator, because I didn't even know how expansive it was until I saw that. So the way you can position and put the items on the characters is pretty cool. Unfortunately you can, make penises, but you could probably make a lot of other cool things too. So, the next topic here is Red Dead Redemption 2 is a confirmed 99 gigabytes and also 2 discs on the PS4.
Well, it's only 1 disc on the Xbox?
Maybe. I just know it's confirmed on PS4.
Okay. Well, yeah, this was kind of, it seems so extravagant it kind of piqued my interest in the game, because I wasn't really interested in buying the game, quite honestly, because I don't know, as we'll talk about later, I'm not really into the Western setting all that much. I didn't really care for the first game too much either, so it's just kind of whatever. But then I saw it was this enormous file size. I was kind of interested in just seeing how expansive this open world is going to actually be.
Right. No. Yeah. Exactly. And yeah. So I was planning on getting it anyway. But this may push me to buy it on the Xbox since I definitely have 99 gigabytes of free space on that thing. So. Next here is Virtual Lawn. The first 2 Virtual Lawn games are coming to the PS4. Queasy, is this flake news? Is this great news?
This is flake news. I mean, that's great for Virtual On fans, I guess.
End of story. Yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
Next is we got some more, I think maybe confirmed news or some more news about Medieval, the PS1 game. That's going to get an HD remake. Queasy, is this flake news?
That's also flake news. I mean, it's just funny that you're like, we got some news about Medieval, the PS1 game. Late 2018.
Oh, yeah,
We got some news about Medieval. Okay, well, yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing about the new developments in, Siphon Filter 2 and all of that, so.
Exactly. I'm surprised it's not on the PS1 Classic, Probably because it didn't have analog sticks.
It's a fairly well-respected PS1 game. So, great for fans of Medieval.
Right.
That's 2 for 2 now.
There we are. And then finally here we have looks like Germany is going to recognize sim racing as a motorsport. What's your take there? You about to get you a nice Gran Turismo setup now and be a real athlete?
Yeah, and move to Deutschland. Yeah, I think so.
Get some driving shoes.
I think so. Well, I mean, they probably aren't playing Gran Turismo. They're probably playing like iRacer and stuff like that. But that seems like, if anyone was going to do that, I would expect it to be like, Germany or, somewhere in the EU, I guess.
There it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that's our flake news. And so, as we just said, everything that we just talked about is, the most important thing ever. So stay tuned.
It was on the front page of GameSpot.
Oh yeah, of course. Virtual On PS4 it was. It's on the front cover of Game Informer too.
Oh.
No. No. All right. Well, so our first topic here is late to the party. So you might be thinking, Mars Vindicator, what do you mean by late to the party? Who's having a party and who's late to it? Well, I'll tell you who's having a party. It's the FGC. Okay. We got a lot of damn games out. I can't even choose which one to play. I'm juggling back and forth between Soul Calibur, Tekken, Street Fighter, Blast Blue Cross Tag Battle, Dragon Ball FighterZ. It's ridiculous. King of Fighters, SNK Heroines, Smash is coming out.
EX Layer.
Yeah, exactly. Every Neo Geo fighting game is being re-released. It's absurd. So who's late? Virtua Fighter. That's who. Akira, Sarah, Pai, Lau, the whole crew. Where the hell are they? I don't know. I call Yu Suzuki, but he doesn't work for Sega anymore. So that's who it is. It's Virtua Fighter. And they had made their most recent appearance in Dead or Alive, of course, some of the Virtua Fighter characters. And they could come to Dead or Alive 6. But as we all know, Virtua Fighter and Dead or Alive are extremely different from one another. I actually would put them on the total opposite ends of the 3D fighting game spectrum. Whereas Virtua Fighter is probably the most, technical, the most polished fighting game. And Dead or Alive is like the least. It's like one step up from just being a button masher. So that wouldn't really, make me happy if that's where we get Virtua Fighter. So we definitely need a Virtua Fighter game. And the reason why I said that they're so late to the party is because I was really taking a look back and thinking about Virtua Fighter. Virtua Fighter, I think, hit a very, they hit some hard times with Virtua Fighter 3. First of all, because that should have been a Sega Saturn game because it didn't really look that great to be on the Dreamcast, right? Not when the PS2 was putting out stuff like Tekken 4, right? Tekken Tag 1. So that was one thing. Also, Virtua Fighter is known for having just these, archetype characters with no real personality. And at that point in time, you had like Street Fighter 3 coming out with a whole new cast of characters, a very interesting kind of story and style going on. It was, very stylized. Same thing with Tekken 3. You got these extremely great CG endings in Tekken 3. And, fighting games are kind of going down that path of having these, really elaborate stories and being extremely stylized. Whereas Virtua Fighter 3 was just Virtua Fighter with better graphics, right? They didn't really do much to it. They did some CG portraits or whatever, but, 3D technology wasn't new at this point, so it didn't really matter. So, by the time 4 came out, however, I think the general trim of fighting games was still kind of the same, but Virtua Fighter basically launched us into the, competitive fighting game era. Not that fighting games hadn't always been competitive, but that was, I think, one of the first fighting games that we actually saw that was truly built around that sort of thing, with ranking systems and tracking your wins and loss records. The endless battle Kumite mode, where you just ranked up. You got to customize your character, right? So they started so many of these trends that we see in fighting games now that, almost every fighting game has at least, one of those things in it. It was one of the first ones that even brought out replays. I don't know if it was the first, but one of the first. So why is it that now that fighting games are so highly competitive and that so many fighting games are built around that? I mean, we have fighting games now that totally, omit story and omit endings and omit all of that stuff for the sake of just having a balanced game with characters in it to fight. Virtua Fighter is perfect for that. So why aren't they here in this day and age, when this has been the best time for Virtua Fighter since the first time Virtua Fighter ever came out? Queasy, what's your take on this?
Well, it's funny because while you were talking, I was kind of thinking that, that's all very true. And I think, if ever there was a time where a Virtua Fighter-esque game with, no real character development or story or at least not like a dominant one, is a viable title, it's going to be like right now. I mean, it can just come out and be, similar to, I'm assuming fighting EX Layer has very little in the way of story.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So something like that, or even, Street Fighter had, didn't even launch with any kind of story. So definitely. But I was also thinking, because, and I hate to do this every week, but, Shenmue was originally to be, it was originally the concept for the game was to be, Akira's story. It was going to be called like Virtua Fighter, like Akira's story or something like that. So it was going to be like an attempt to flesh out, I think, the Virtua Fighter characters, and you can kind of see like some of the characters having sort of like Virtua Fighter links to them. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's a character in Shenmue 2 that kind of reminded me of Pi a little bit. Definitely a more like stoic version of that of her, but still like. And then there was a few other, some of the boss characters and stuff like that. Even Lan Di is kind of like almost like, yeah, exactly. And so like there was this attempt made to do that. And also I think like during that era, we saw this continued like kind of expansion of story.
I just want, is Tom Jeffrey?
He very well might have been. I mean, because he does teach you a move. So I mean, he does have some fighting prowess. There is like a big black guy in Shenmue 2.
I mean, what game doesn't have one?
Well, actually, you know what? Am I confused? I might even be mixing that up with Yakuza because I played Yakuza Kiwami and Shenmue 2 at the same time. Regardless, what I was gonna say is like there was this attempt to kind of like flesh things out and add more story and do more with your characters, have more cutscenes, endings, all that stuff. Obviously, not just in fighting games, but in games as a whole. I think there was like an attempt to make stories bigger, in the 5th and 6th generations. And it's funny that now we've like truncated it back to like nothing. It's like it's almost like they just did those things to kind of be viable fighting games. That is, just did those things to be viable in that environment where like you had to have a big AAA blockbuster game with lots of story and all of that. And now that like competitive play is, at the touch of a button, and you just go online and fight people endlessly. It's like they just, we can just take all this out again, because it's almost like just like another version of the arcade. So we don't even need to have all of this extra stuff to get people to play it.
Right. And so that is just exactly the reason why. Yeah, I mean, this is the time for Virtua Fighter.
Yeah, no effort involved, just put it out.
Right. Yeah, and it wouldn't get the same backlash that something like Street Fighter or Tekken would get, because we wouldn't be expecting that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
All we need is ranking. So, Virtua Fighter, where the hell are you?
Virtua Fighter 6. Get out there.
Yeah, this is your time to shine. All right. So, as usual, always, we've talked about Red Dead. We talked about Shenmue, right? We always have these great games that have these great environments, right? And while I'm pretty I'm pretty, what do I want to say, open, to playing a lot of games, a lot of different settings, but I definitely have my favorite settings that I like to play. My favorite settings that I like for my games to be set in, I should say. So we kind of want to just, this next topic, talk about our favorite game environments. And so, as I just kind of brought this up, because, there's always these great games that come out. Notably for me, which it has always been this way, even though I know the setting has changed from a more like Greek to a Nordic setting, but it's something about like the God of War setting I was never that fond of, especially like the previous one, which is weird because I really do quite like Greek mythology, and that's part of the reason why I like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I'll get to. But it was kind of the way that God of War did it. And yeah, because God of War was Greek, right? Not Roman, right?
Right, it was Greek.
Yeah, Greek. So yeah, it I don't know. It may have just been, the frequent. It seemed like it was always at nighttime, or it may have been this kind of more demonic and evil looking things going on, or it may have just been, the fact that in that setting it looked, more unrealistic than it does, in Assassin's Creed. I don't know, but it has always kind of held me back from playing that great franchise that I recognize, that I know is great. Meanwhile, I've put hours into games like Genji, right, which are pretty subpar, but are set in the feudal Japan setting with samurai, ninja, and I mean you have to make a game extremely bad in that setting for me to not want to play it. Okay, because we all know Genji,
Kabuki Warriors,
right? Yeah, like I guarantee you, if I had bought an Xbox, I would have bought Kabuki Warriors and probably would have liked it a little bit. Maybe just because of the setting, I'm a sucker for, Dynasty Warriors is of course China, but I think there's just something about that whole like warring, East Asian thing that's going on. I mean, if they had a game that was set in Korea, I'm sure I would, love it as well. There's just something about that setting. But even that too, I still recognize the differences between, say, Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors. And I think I do like Samurai Warriors more. I'm just a little bit more familiar with Japan. But definitely, any kind of samurai-esque game, that's set in pretty much any time period before Japan modernized. I do like, because even the Yakuza games, they've had these samurai ones that were set in Japan. And one was set like pretty far back. And I'm pretty sure there were only samurai. But then the next one was kind of like just before Japan was really getting like, reconstructed. So like there's guns in it as well. But I still like it. So any like, any game set in Japan before, like 1910, I'm gonna love it. And then with that being said, another old setting that I do like from the past, of course, is, Greek mythology. I like Greek mythology a lot. And that is kind of why I've been liking Assassin's Creed. I think in that game, it's more like bright and, it's like very colorful. And I think that's kind of what makes me like that setting more in that game versus God of War. So I do think actually the idea of like a lot of greenery and, brightness and, like a nice sunny day, because, since I'm a fat sedentary bastard, I don't want to go out and experience that in real life, right? I want to experience a nice sunny day in a video game. You know what I'm saying? So I love that. Also space, right? I love space, but not just any kind of space. It's got to be good space. Far in the future space, we have established contact with aliens and have had that for a long time space. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I really love Mass Effect. I love the fact that there's just these other alien races that are just normal, and, you can talk to them, you can procreate with them, and just do whatever you want, and it's all set in space. On the flip side, I'm not too big of a fan of, like, recently into space settings, we just got here and there's nothing here, except maybe some aliens that want to kill us. Dead Space is cool, but it's just not Mass Effect. So, super far into space, a lot of greenery, and I would say feudal Japan are probably my top settings for video games. Queasy, where do you stand on this?
It's funny, the space thing, because we're like the exact opposite, because I like, cold, quiet space, like the Doom 3 I thought had a great setting, the really creepy space shuttle and all of that. My effect was on Mars, but still, like, it's a desolate Mars and all of that. And, I'm sure there's others I'm not thinking of at the moment that are quiet space games. I never played Dead Space, so I can't really cite that one. But, I like feudal Japan as well. I like a lot of games that are in that setting. I think that's always a good, robust setting. I'm looking forward to all the, samurai games that we got coming out soon.
Yeah,
but, yeah, I know. But, I love Neo. I thought Neo was great. Onimusha is great. I think for me, cause it's funny because, like, when you first mentioned this topic, I was thinking you meant, like, living room or arcade, or, like, it's, like, where environment do you like to play games in?
Right.
But I think for me, like, because I never really even considered this, like, what settings are really the most important to me, or ones that I like the most or gravitate towards the most. I think, like, if I had to say, it would be something like, kind of like either like present day or like near future and kind of like urban settings, because I like thinking about my favorite games, of course, Shenmue, and a lot of the others I would like, even just like the individual ones like Tekken 3. I really love like the kind of like near future, like just cool urban vibe that game has, and Tekken 4 as well. Those two I think especially did that really well. Even like Mortal Kombat 3 was always my favorite, just because it had this kind of like, it was like that level you're fighting on the streets and stuff, and it, it's got the cyborgs in it, and like it just had this kind of like cool near future vibe to it.
Right.
Other games too. I mean, the Flashback, Fade to Black, that series, I think, captures that quite well in a lot of the stages, and that, although that is a distant future actually, but it feels kind of close future. And Perfect Dark, another one of my favorites. Half-Life 2, near future, crazy, desolation and stuff in parts, and other parts are like this dystopian, kind of close to modern setting that we get. And I think a big thing for me is just like atmospherics. Like, I like games that have kind of like, they use music sparingly, I think, and do a lot of good stuff with, lighting and shadows. And another one, Splinter Cell, another near future. Like, I really love that. Metal Gear Solid, all it's like, the more I think about it, the more just keep coming out. Like, those are games that I always tend to like the settings of.
Journeyman,
quite a lot. Journeyman, yeah, that's actually distant future, but it has, because the game's so old, it's like it came out in like 95 or something like that. It has this kind of like, it's almost like the age of the game counteracts the futureness of the setting, so it feels like just kind of like slightly near future, even though it's like really old. Right. Or really far in the future, actually. Yeah, Journeyman, Project Buried in Time. Yeah, I think that's what does it for me.
I could definitely, yeah, like especially now that you mention it, I think that always has kind of like been there in your like game choices. And I think kind of the same for me as well. I think another thing that I wanted to mention too is, you know, what I think another thing that's interesting to me is when, because I definitely I do like urban settings. I like them in real life as well. So I like any game that's like set in, modern Japan or modern New York or something like in a big city. But I also really like when Japanese developers take on Western settings. It always like feels different to me, and there's always kind of this similar feeling to them. Like, it's kind of weird to think that, Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy are similar, right? But I think there's something there. It's like this, it's obviously Western, right? But there's like this Japanese spin to it. And so I've always kind of liked that as well. So I probably would like any Western setting game if it's done by a Japanese developer. I'm hoping that Ghost of Tsushima provides me with that opposite feeling. I'm actually a little, that's one of the ones I'm like really interested about seeing how it's done, because it's very rare that, like a Western developer takes on like an Asian setting, So
right, cultural appropriation.
Right, yeah, exactly. Right, like I feel like I have not enjoyed that since like Mortal Kombat. I think Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 did that very well. It wasn't necessarily in a Eastern setting as much as it had a lot of Eastern influence, but I really liked what they did with it. I do like 3, but to me 3 just feels very different, because 3 did feel like it was like just modern at that point, and there were like some guys who did ninja shit in it. Whereas like 1 and 2 really felt like it was like really inspired,
Yeah. I mean, when you had characters like Cabal and Stryker and the cyborgs
right.
and stuff, yeah, for sure.
So oh yeah, well, there was that story mode in Deception with Shujinko. That was awesome.
Oh yeah, that.
Well,
those.
Shaolin Monks was that was dope. So yeah. Overall, I think Mortal Kombat does it really well. It's totally fictional for the most part.
Right, they really ride the line, and the way it's different realms and stuff. So certain realms are, just for some reason are like East Asian countries, I think. Right. So either way, I have my gripes with like past Western settings. I do like LA Noire. It's totally different from Red Dead Redemption, of course, but there's just is that it's obviously it's America, right, in the past. So sometimes I like those, sometimes I don't. I'm interested to see how Red Dead comes out. It may make me like the Western setting even more. So we'll see. And you're not a big fan of the snow, I know, as well.
Yeah, I'm not exactly. I'm not a big fan. I don't really like snow or deserts or like volcanoes.
Oh, see, I love volcanoes.
Like I can take them in like small bursts. I do love ice cap.
Volcanoes are sick.
Yeah, they can be dope. I just, it's like a bunch of red. I really don't like caves. Lord, get me out of
Mystic Cave.
Yeah, get me out of there. So yeah, but,
So no Spelunky for Mars Vindicator.
See, what is that? What is that set in, like volcanic snowy caves or something? Is that even a thing?
No, it's just like some indie side-scrolling cave diving game. I don't know.
Yeah, get me out of the cave. Good Lord. Yeah, sewers, because I've always just like, I like bright. I really like bright settings. Like I like nighttime, right, in the games, but I just hate it when it's like, I guess if it's night, I really like to be outside. If it's dark, I mean, yeah, sewers.
No sewers.
Yeah, that was kind of one of my biggest gripes with like the X-Men Legends games. It just felt like I was always in the sewer. Every time I play it, I love those games, but it's just like I'm always in a damn sewer, in a cave, fighting the Morlocks. So yeah. Well, so a lot of the games that we've mentioned, Mortal Kombat, Shenmue, again, I just wait till I say Streets of Rage. No, but a lot of this stuff, these are all great memories that we have, franchises that we experienced when we were younger, when we we were youths, we could come home from school and, spend the next, 96 hours in the day playing video games until it was time to go to sleep, and that was pretty much all you had to do. It was the time where, you could just kind of not do your homework, because I'm in the 4th grade, what are you going to do? Flunk me? I was at home playing Metal Gear Solid, you know what I'm saying? So, but unfortunately, we're adults now and we have to, be slaves to capitalism and, go to work and make money and pay for things and get stressed out about things, possibly smoke cigarettes, drink a lot of alcohol, talk about mortgages, talk about having kids, complain about being invited to your friends' weddings. There's just so many barriers, things that you don't want to do, but you have to do. And it just takes away a lot of time from playing video games, right? So, yeah, I definitely think that, that has kind of influenced the choices that I make when playing games now. And as much as I do love, because even now I'm going to talk about it later, but like Assassin's Creed Odyssey right now, and just a lot of other, open world games. A lot of times I just get really worried about even starting these games up because I know how much time I have to spend with these games, right? And I know that, I'm going to spend the time with them, and then there's going to be DLC, then I'm going to have to spend time with that, and then I'm going to have to juggle all these worlds around, and that's kind of why I think a lot of games, I think like fighters and shooters, I think really kind of take on well to, some adult players, because they're games where you can just kind of, of course, any time you want to be good at something, you have to spend time, but you can have a couple Call of Duty matches and turn it off. You can have a couple of, fighting game rounds and turn it off. It's not like you have to truly be invested in this world and its characters and its story, because we have to be invested in the Netflix characters as well and the Hulu dramas. There's just so much stuff going on. And so, yeah, one game that I got recently that I was really kind of excited to get into, well, actually 2 games. They were Octopath Traveler and Dragon Quest XI. And, I really like both of those games. I think they're dope, but I just can't do the JRPG thing right now. I just the time, the investment, the grinding, and, it's not that I'm playing other games that are open world with kind of, a lot of content in them, but I don't know. I think even when you take a game like Assassin's Creed, you're just going around and kind of killing people and talking to people. It just doesn't seem like as intense as a JRPG does. I just always associated those with such high time investment, and I just found that I just can't do those anymore. And it's made me happy. Like we previously talked about, a game like Spider-Man, right, where I know I'm gonna play this for 30 or 40 hours and then be done with it, right? That feels great. It's so daunting to me now when somebody's like, man, I'm playing Octopath and I'm 70 hours in and I'm not even halfway done. The moment I hear something like that, I just kind of don't even want to touch it. So I think I still like the same games I liked when I was younger, but I definitely make different choices when I go about buying them and then spending time with them. So Queasy, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, it was all you had to really do, was go to school, come home, maybe do homework. I think, looking back on it, I feel like I just often didn't even do my homework though, and
exactly.
It wasn't really that hard. It wasn't really that hard to get through middle school and high school without doing homework. So, I mean, you could have 10 missing assignments and still pass.
Oh yeah.
You still get a B or a C plus or something. So it was just I feel like oftentimes I just didn't, I remember just investing, hours and hours and hours. I mean, the games that I don't even consider as being that important to me, like Tekken 5. I spent, probably tens of hours just doing endless battles in that, treasure battle or whatever they called it back then. And it's that game doesn't even really I always forget about it. Oh yeah, Tekken 5. That was a really good Tekken. Right. So it's just kind of I don't know. That was pretty much all I did other than school and home and sometimes homework. So I guess, it's not even that I like do that much more now. I think it's just like work is more physically and mentally fatiguing than school ever was for me. So it's just kind of, I think a lot of it is just like, I get home, I make, I have to make my own food,
Right.
for one thing, it's like, I have to, either find something to buy or I have to, make something to eat. I got to clean up afterwards, and by the time you get all done, it's like, okay, I got to get to bed early because, I have to get up early tomorrow or something like that. So a lot of times it's just like, do I really want to, in the, hour or two of free time that I have, do I really want to like sit down and dive deep into some JRPG with a ton of cutscenes and, a story that I have to get involved in and stuff like that? Or do I want to just like, play Minecraft or like, or just like play on my phone for a half hour, or listen to music or something. Like it's just, those things sometimes feel more relaxing and feel like easier uses of my time than like sitting down and playing some big, huge game. And so I don't really know how. There's like a younger guy that I work with who's 20, and he was telling me how he's like on his second playthrough of Horizon, and like he got like 100% in like Yakuza 6 and all of the Yakuzas so far or something like that, and he's like he's always got the new game, Spider-Man, whatever the case may be. And I'm just like, how do you find the time for this? I mean, he's going to college or whatever, but still, it's just like somehow he's got the time and the energy to devote to that. So I think just as you get older, it's just like your just fatigue limit is shortened so much to where it's like you just can't roll with the punches as much, and sometimes you really just need to sit in a chair and not do anything.
I would definitely agree with that. I think there's a lot of other things that probably even affected our gaming that we didn't even realize. Like, even the fact, like we were made to go outside and play at school every day. So like you got the physical activity, like you got all that kind of stuff. And I mean, children should definitely get more of it at home. I'm not going to turn this into, PSA or anything, but at the same time, like we got that at school. You were probably just going to get it anyway as a kid. So then you would just sit down and play games. But yeah, like as we know now, work is taxing. And then as adults, we're not forced to have that like physical activities, and we just kind of like always feel fatigued, and everything's said, we sit down all the time, working at the desk or whatever it is you do, just, sedentary. And so, and that actually, I feel like kind of even takes away energy from you being able to play games, which is actually, I think, kind of the opposite way that people look at it. But, like I definitely think that is true. Sometimes I just feel too fatigued to even sit down and try to play a JRPG. And, and I think another thing about it as well is,
some of us have cats to feed.
You see, yes, right. Shit, some of us have humans to feed, that's a whole nother topic that we haven't even gotten to yet when it comes to actually gaming and stuff. I think another one though too is that, and then, so not only then do I not have the time to spare with the games, I'm much more like particular and like aware about how I spend my time now, and if it's gonna be valuable or not. So like recently here, I've been helping out my girlfriend get good at like Tekken and stuff, right? And it's funny that you mentioned Tekken 5, because I even know this as a kid, and I've experienced this with other people. Like when I was a kid, I mean, yeah, I would play Tekken for hours upon hours upon hours upon hours in a day, right? And like for days and for years. And it was just fun to do that. And I never once, because I wasn't going to the arcade all the time, I wasn't necessarily doing that with the sole intent of becoming good at the game, right? I was just enjoying playing it. So even after all those hours of time that I spent playing Tekken, like I wasn't ready to go to Evo. You know, like I didn't really know all the combo strings. I didn't know all this stuff. I mean, of course you're going to learn some things, but but you don't really get good at the game like that. Whereas like now when I go buy a fighting game, like the first thing I want to do is, okay, let's figure out the characters. You know, what combos do they have? You know, what are the tiers? You know, what are the frames? You know, how fast does the character move? And, so now like I could probably get a fighting game and, based off of what I know now and based off of how I want to spend my time now, I'm going to be like, maybe ready to compete in a low level tournament in a month. Whereas like when I was a kid, I could have played the game for 3 years and never even thought about something like that, and I think that definitely influences how I even look at games and how I spend my time as well, because I always feel like I have to be, gaining something out of the time that I spend playing games, and I don't think that's always necessarily good. But it's just kind of the way I look at things. It's one of the reasons I do like fighting games. When you talk about something like a shooter, is because I think those games give you like these transferable skills. Like if you take somebody who played a lot of Halo and you give them Call of Duty, they're not going to immediately be great at duty, but they know how to play a FPS, right? And that's kind of one of my issues with like some like third person and like action adventure games, because they're like usually like that game is just that game, and it's like it doesn't really transfer over to other things, if you know what I mean. Yeah. But like I always feel like I'm like gaining more knowledge and gaining more skill when I play any fighting game, so then I can then compete better when I play against people or play online. So I think that's had a huge effect on how I play games too. I always like want to be gaining something, I don't know, have you experienced that at all?
Yeah, I think, well, it was kind of when I was in college, I think, when they started doing like achievements and trophies and stuff like that. And, I didn't always take those very seriously. Sometimes I would want to get, certain achievements or get all the achievements for a certain game or something like that, because it was some game that I was really into or whatever. But I think the introduction of that created this kind of new, and I think I might have mentioned this in some previous episode or something, but like it kind of changed like the goals of the gamer. And I think there was just a lot of things that built towards this, like now, I mean, with streaming, and, we can talk about this when we talk about Call of Duty at some point, but I mean, just like the way that, streaming is such a like streaming or YouTube videos or whatever the case may be, any kind of like online, expose of your gaming. There's like this desire to want to like show off how good you are or something like that. And so like a lot of people end up, there were a lot of games where, even just a few years ago, it was like, I'm not going to play that because I can't record it or whatever, or it's not a good game to make a video out of or something like that, or to stream or whatever, and like that's something that just that never would have occurred to me back in the day. I would have just thought, it's a new game, I'll play it and I could talk about it with people or whatever. But it's like I think somewhere in the 7th generation, kind of the console generation, that is the I don't even know how to word it exactly, but there was something that kind of shifted in like the way gamers like showcase their skills, the way gamers like, it became much more important to like, that was like machinima and all that stuff started getting real popular, and people were always posting videos of like, I went 40 and 2 on such and such map in Modern Warfare 2, look how good I am. And it was like, everyone was trying to like build these, personas and show what a great gamer they were, and a lot of people did that with achievement hunting, and they'd have all these achievements and stuff like that. And so it's like, rather than playing the game for your own personal enjoyment, you were playing it to achieve these things and to showcase things and to show off. And I think that was a harmful thing, and I think that kind of played a part in my declining interest in video games during that time. I mean, it's gotten quite a bit better now, I think, but for several years I was like, I'm not gonna play that. That game sucks. I'm not gonna play that. I can't. I can't stream it. I can't.
Right.
The achievements are too hard to get, or whatever the case might have been. Like, it was just a completely different way of looking at it.
No, that is 100% true. I think another big thing with that too is just the whole advent of online gaming, because like for example, when I was a kid, I went and rented the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers fighting game, right? I didn't for a second consider the fact that Street Fighter 2 is in the arcade, and therefore more people are playing it, so it's gonna have a better scene than the Power Rangers game, right? Like I didn't think about it like that, I just went and played that game, but nowadays I do that. I definitely would like to venture outside of Tekken a lot more, but one thing that kind of holds me back from trying to play games like BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle or something is the fact that I know that, this game's online, is going to be dead in a year, whereas Tekken or Street Fighter is going to be here, and it's made me want to play games that I don't even like as much, like Street Fighter, just because I know that there's going to be a community, So, and I mean, that's probably always been there because we've always had arcades, but I don't think it really hit the way that it does today, so yeah, those are just definitely some good points. And I think more so than even just gaming as an adult, we've kind of touched on what it is to just game in this day and age, we just happen to be adults at this point in time. So yeah, I couldn't imagine
True.
being 8 and wanting to play a game only because other people were playing it online, and like no one played the game I played online. And sometimes it's not even just that you're doing it because you're being a follower. Like literally, like you could turn on a game and not be able to get a match, so like you have to play another game. You know what I'm saying? So.
Right,
yeah.
I mean, Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
Right, like you just kind of can't do that now,
Yeah.
So yeah, that is something. Well, luckily for us, Street Fighter Cross Tekken is not one of the games of fall 2018, because that game was not that great. But there are a lot of great games in fall 2018. And we just kind of want to spend some time talking about those games, talking about what we've been playing. And well, some may be great, some may not be great, some may be less great than they seem. We will see. But for me, I kind of want to highlight, we'll say 3 games here. There's been lots of stuff that came out this fall. Super Mario Party is wonderful. I mean, it's Mario Party. What'd you expect? Shenmue 1 and 2 is dope. It's Shenmue 1 and 2. What'd you expect? I do have those games. Dragon Quest 11, even though I'm kind of giving up on it, I did enjoy it. But the games that have really hit me the hardest this fall have been Words of Orochi 4, Spider-Man, and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So I spent a bit of time talking about Spider-Man. It's dope. And I'll kind of just leave it at that. You can definitely check out the past episodes to get more in depth on how I feel about that. I mean, there's new content coming out, and I'm excited to play that. But yeah, I mean, Spider-Man is awesome. But Assassin's Creed Odyssey, it really kind of surprised me. I'm not a huge Ubisoft fan, but this year I did play Far Cry 5, and that I think was a good dip into the Ubisoft waters. And then Assassin's Creed Odyssey is it's just been great. I really like playing as Cassandra, as I play as a female main character. I've been kind of noticing that in my adult years, just the idea of taking on a game as a female character just kind of adds this other, interesting point to it. Not always, but sometimes, just because, it's just something that, it just doesn't happen as much, or, I don't eat, or when there's the option, I don't always choose it. So I definitely enjoy that. And just like I mentioned before, I really like the setting of the game. And like the world is definitely massive. It's dope. I mean, it's definitely a Ubisoft game, so there's going to be a lot of, manufactured content in it. But, what is there, I am really enjoying. And there's probably going to be a cutoff date to it, just like there was with me with Far Cry. But so far, I'm enjoying that game a lot more than I thought I would have, given that it's a Ubisoft Assassin's Creed game. So I definitely, if you've been on the fence about Assassin's Creed, I think this one is definitely different than the past games. And then another game, as I mentioned, is Warriors of Orochi 4. Now this is a Dynasty Warriors / Samurai Warriors mashup game, so it's par for the course Warriors. But I spent about 8 hours playing this today with a friend of mine, locally, right? And we were able to play through the story, right, together, couch co-op. And not only can you not do that in a lot of games, period, that was like a notably missing feature from Dynasty Warriors 9, right? Like their huge flagship game, as well as like Warriors, All-Stars, and like a couple of their other more recent games. So, yeah, I mean, like I said before, any game, I'm a sucker for any game that's going to give me great couch co-op. And, that game was just a great experience. Cause, you go through the story and I was unlocking characters, unlocking weapons, and it's, I wasn't buying that content. I wasn't buying the new characters. I was unlocking them with a friend through playing the story. So that was just like a gaming experience I hadn't felt since like, I don't know, like probably seriously like 2008 or something, So,
probably.
Right. Yeah. So, I really, really thoroughly enjoyed that experience. And so those have just been some of my favorite games of the fall. But I mean, it goes without saying. I mean, Zone of the Enders VR it's absurd. And a game that I, kind of enjoyed a bit, considering that I'm not a huge FPS fan. A little bit has been Call of Duty Black Ops. I think zombies is cool. I mean, I always like zombies. And Blackout mode has been all right from what I've played, but Queasy Crayfish may have some opinions about that game and some other ones. So, Queasy, what do you got to say about games this fall?
Well, yes, I did get Black Ops last week, and I mean, the hype for playing Call of Duty for me is definitely diminished compared to previous years. I really like the Blackout mode. I really like that. I haven't played Zombies yet because to me, Zombies isn't really fun solo, and I don't have any friends, so I just my cat's not gonna play with me. But
never know.
But Blackout is a lot of fun, and I think the thing that I like most about it is that it's like the exact opposite of the multiplayer. Because multiplayer is, fast and loud and obnoxious and crazy and twitchy, and Blackout is slow and methodical and, sitting in a bathroom with the door closed, listening intently to the person running around outside or something. Like that's what Blackout is. It's like, and I think, possibly if other Battle Royale games are like that, then I think I'm a fan of the Battle Royale genre. I haven't really gotten into it at all, but this makes me kind of curious to try out some others. So definitely a thumbs up for the Blackout mode. I think the multiplayer in this is horrendous. However, I think when I first played it, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm playing multiplayer again. But, there's just so much, I can't deal with this. It's funny because last week I had said I can't deal with the Fortnite community. And after playing this Black Ops 4 multiplayer, I mean, I learned very quickly, go into, set up a private, party chat for yourself if you're playing solo on this, so you don't have to listen to people. Because, I mean, you go into the lobby and it's two people talking, or one guy's talking about the game or something, and I just unlocked this other gun, and some other guy immediately just starts screaming at him, fuck you, bitch, just for no reason at all, and you're just like, oh, why so aggressive? There's this ridiculous amount of fake macho male energy in the room, and of course everybody's name Ballsack 69 and Dank Smoker 420 and it's just it's like the dregs of humanity. It literally like playing the multiplayer in this and interacting with the people. It's just like the worst that humankind has to offer, and everyone's like the most basic of bro. Like I think the word you used was meathead. Definitely very, very apt. And I think the thing that makes it, because that was always the case, with Call of Duty, but I think the thing that makes it worse is that now this is like this esports minor league where everyone, thinks, everyone's streaming, like everyone's got their Twitch, in their little emblem or whatever, and, or they're making a video or something, and they're trying to get some, 360 no scopes, either, or whatever the case may be. And so you just end up with, not only horrible community and horrible behavior, but you end up with just like bad gameplay where, some guy's playing with some absurd weapon with some absurd attachment, and, like it's just bad. Like, it's just not worth your time. Like, if you're trying to sit down there and just play casually and like, have an assault rifle and equip things sensibly and stuff like that, like you're gonna get killed by the guy who's who's got some sniper rifle that's a one-shot kill, and he's standing back on the corner of the map and you can't reach him, and he's got two other teammates watching his back, and it's just like, why am I wasting my time with this? So I think I'm done with that, and I'm just gonna play Blackout. So that's my opinion of Black Ops 4. So after that harangue, I guess there's other games. Well, obviously, I just picked up Soul Calibur today, actually, so I haven't even had a chance to play it all. I did play the network test, but definitely excited to get into that. And for this fall, I have been playing. I did play Shenmue 1 and 2. I got 100% trophies on both those, so that's an example of two games that I actually wanted to do that with, and was able to do it. And I've been actually more or less just been tackling my backlog. In the last couple months, I started getting into Yakuza Kiwami again, and trying to get through that game. I would like to go back to Horizon and God of War and finish both of those. Hopefully if enough stuff doesn't pile up. And other than that, just Minecraft. Just casual Minecraft, because I think that game is actually a lot of fun, and it's actually very deep. And I'm glad that I picked it up, as some people might disagree with that, but it's a lot of fun, I think. So
that's tight. Well, yeah, I guess for me, I just have not, the whole idea of a backlog. What I've been trying to do with a lot of my backlog actually is play those games as they get re-released. Because, come on, we're getting the 3 virtual on games now, for Christ's sakes, so it's like everything is going to come back out. And so those have always been on my backlog. A huge backlog game of mine. Well, actually 2 huge backlog games of mine that just got re-released, like I just mentioned, were Shenmue 2 and Zone of the Enders 2. Both of those games I had played kind of like the beginning segments of back when they came out, and I just never got around to them for whatever reason. They may have just come out when other games were just out, so I just didn't play them. So I'm really happy to be able to go back and do both of those games, at a time when, not to say that there has to be press around the game when I play it, but it always makes it a little bit more fun. And then on top of that, you obviously are getting better graphics, better sound or whatever. And in the case of Zone of the Enders, you get VR, so.
Yeah, well, I heard that was trash.
Did you?
From GameSpot.
Oh, well, I mean, it's GameSpot, because we talked about that, right? How they scored the game so much lower than the original score, right? Because they gifted us with trying to recreate a 14-year-old game in VR. This is how we respond to that. I did.
And the controls didn't hold up on the exact same controller layout.
Right, yeah, exactly. How dare they make it so much worse? Yeah, it's just absurd. I didn't expect it to perform like Resident Evil 7 or some other game that was made for the VR. It's definitely a dope experience. F Games. What do they call it? GameSpot. I always mix them up with GameStop. You know, both trash. So. Man.
I give GameSpot a 3 out of 10.
I give, a 3 out of 10. I don't even rate GameSpot. I don't even mention them anymore. You know, we can go there to talk about Luke Cage cancellation. You know, that's the only good news they're gonna give us these days. But either way, you know, that's something that I've been trying to do with my backlog. So, because just going back to the whole time thing, you know. I just can't find the time between new games and the backlog, so I just try to get them all now as new games, you know, because I don't feel like hooking up a CRT or something to play, you know. I don't know, Sword of the Rudra on an imported Super Nintendo, you know.
Sword of the what?
Rudra. Maybe it's Eye of the Rudra. Something Rudra. It's like this SNES RPG only came out in Japan. Whatever. You know, collector's bullshit.
Well, yeah, I hope to one day get to the bottom of my backlog and finish Riglord Saga on the Sega Saturn.
I mean, or just play the HD re-release.
Yeah.
You know, because it's coming, you know, probably sooner than Jet Set Radio Future. So, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. So this has been Status Quo, episode 25. And, I'm Mars Vindicator, and I'm about to go, live Zone of the Enders in VR and enjoy myself. I don't know what you guys are going to do, that's what I'm going to go do. So, I will see you guys later. Queasy.
I'm Queasy Crayfish, and I'm going to go eat a basket of chicken right now.
Who doesn't like basket of chicken? I might do that in VR as well, because Lord knows I don't need it in real life. Alright, so it's been Status Quo. Right.